Hello, I'm Andrea Gallo. We are at Linaro Connect in Bangkok, and I'm with two friends who I've known for as long as 6 years, and it has been a continuous learning process for me from these friends. So I'm very excited to welcome Shane Coglan and Harald Welte, and they have been our guests at the keynote. They gave us a very interesting talk about the best practices for open source license compliance. So thank you very much for being with us. One very important message that you shared during the keynote is about the ultimate goal of the license compliance and license enforcement. Can you tell us more?
You know, compliance is never an end in itself. The thing with free software is that it's not about free code, it's about getting multiples of your engineering investment. And compliance is one of the important parts of that, to allow companies to strategically get the most value from their engagement in this community. Therefore, it's pretty clear that whenever you approach compliance, what you're approaching is a way to optimize stakeholder engagement in this field.
So the ultimate goal of license compliance is to become a member of the collaborative development process. It is not the compliance itself that is the ultimate goal. And in terms of the ultimate goal of enforcement, it is becoming into compliance with the license and not something that is about damages or about financial aspects. It's really about the cease and desist claim, about not further distributing a product that is incompliant.
We often get requests for help from our members when they need numbers and figures and clear figures to justify investing in open source and in open source communities from their executives at their companies. We usually try and help them providing hints to those studies and analysis about the estimated cost. And usually we try and explain that there's an estimated cost of development for a given point of time, for a given software project, and then there's an additional cost over time that is the continuous maintenance and improvement. So there's a development cost and a maintenance upgrade cost, incremental cost, and these provide the total cost of ownership. In your keynote, you refer to the grab and run approach versus the invest and grow approach. Can you explain better, and how can you help the members understand the financials and the savings when joining an open source community the right way?
Now that's a really good question. When I said invest and grow rather than grab and run is the important strategic approach to free software, I meant that when you think that free software delivers multiples of your engineering investment, that it provides you with a way to reduce R&D costs on complex platforms and accelerate time to market. You don't do that on one single product, one software download. You engage with an ecosystem on life cycles of product families. It's not a situation where you go and grab free code and leave and get the right value. You invest in this space and you grow the space to grow your platforms, and that's what provides you with the fantastic returns available.
Harald, can you share an example of the gold reference of a process where you started enforcing a license and the company had the best behavior that you would use as example, as a reference example to any other company that needs to comply?
Okay, so the gold standard for license compliance and for getting into license compliance after having had some issue in terms of license compliance is clearly to recognize that there was a problem, to admit that there is a problem, and then to thoroughly analyze the business processes and the internal behavior that resulted in a lack of license compliance in the first case. So sometimes this may need 1 or 2 or 3 wake-up calls in terms of having delivered a product into the market without license compliance. But then if you really take this up as a challenge and as something that needs to be resolved for your business as a good corporate citizen, it is actually not so hard to resolve these issues. In contrast, we have seen several other organizations and companies that basically do not even start to admit there is an issue, that make up legal arguments for the sake of a legal argument, that drag on cases for a very long time, basically making excuses, and that's really not the kind of behavior that we expect from companies participating in and using free software.
And from an engineering aspect, you mentioned that the engineering phase where you are studying a product, analyzing a product, and seeing if your code is in, and that is the most interesting, funny part from the engineering side. Can you tell us about the most difficult or most interesting case that you have been through?
Well, I should probably not mention this here because others might follow this example, but actually the most fun and the most challenging technical investigation was with a specific firewall product vendor who encrypted their firmware image with an encryption algorithm and key that was stored in the BIOS. So we first had to reverse engineer the encryption system in the BIOS in order to decrypt the image, in order to prove that actually code that I hold copyright is included in the product. But as I said, please don't do this.
Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much for the very interesting keynote, and I hope you will enjoy the rest of our Linaro Connect.